You and I both had those leaders who would just focus on the numbers. I mean, they just wanted to get their focus on a spreadsheet. They wanted to hit the pipeline. They didn't care about you per se, and they didn't care about the end result for you in a relationship with your prospect. They just wanted to make sure that they had deals and that they didn't lose their job. Now, that's no way to lead a team. And my guest today, Helen Fanucci, she's going to teach us on how leaders can properly help their team not only build pipeline, but also build them as individuals and lead a successful team, especially in the challenging economy. You're going to love this one. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for my guest today. I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited for you to be here and to hear Helen Fanucci. And if you haven't checked her out yet, ladies and gentlemen, check out her book. You can find more information about this. Love Your Team, a survival guide for leaders. And this is a sales management in a hybrid world. Helen has worked for years with a hybrid team, and she's been very successful. But not only as a team, working in a capacity with her team, but also in the fact that she helped her team hit their numbers and been a part of a very successful organization doing that. So I'm really excited to hear some of her ideas and how we can utilize that. Now, if this is your first time watching or listening to our podcast, please go ahead and subscribe. Our show is dedicated to doing a simple thing: helping you build a stronger sales pipeline and helping you convert a higher percentage of that sales pipeline. Now, you can take advantage of our LinkedIn program that's going to help you generate 3 appointments per week via LinkedIn without spamming, as well as adding on your current outreach that you're doing. Our team we're a big fan of cold outreach. You're going to hear some of the things that Helen shared today and how this goes directly in line with this powerful concept of leaders guiding their team to build effective pipeline and to help them to be able to do so succinctly and consistently. Check it out. Helen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm fortunate for this opportunity. I'm grateful for you being willing to come and share some of your insights with us. And congratulations on the new book. You can find a link down below if you guys want to check it out. But talk to us a little bit more about it. Why a book right now, Helen?
Well, I really felt it was relevant, particularly managing remote teams. And I have a lot of experience managing remote teams and building high-performing teams. And as I reflected on kind of what's needed and how sales managers need to work with their team members in a post-COVID, hopefully post-COVID world coming up here one of these days, they really need to understand their team members and what their goals are, because the expectations, employees' expectations of managers have changed. And some of it might not be familiar or comfortable for traditional sales managers. So I thought that I had a positive message to say, and it was timely.
What has changed? Just put that. What are some of those expectations that have just totally changed?
Yeah. So in the past, work was work and home was home. During COVID, as individuals reflected on what they were looking for work-wise, they're looking for flexibility. They're looking for their manager to know them as whole people with lives worthy of the manager's understanding and attention. And so it's not just work is work anymore. And a lot of managers aren't accustomed to managing more broadly and really understanding and putting attention and focus on their team members and supporting their team members' success on the terms of the team member. So example, 3 of the folks that I was managing about a year ago, they all wanted to be first level managers. So I coached them, they shadowed me, I gave them opportunities for visibility, and that for them was success for them, while they also delivered, achieved quota attainment and delivered results. So, I think some managers are just used to, build pipeline, get 3x pipeline coverage, kill quota, and then end a story. But that's insufficient now.
Yeah. There's more to those characters, more to what people want. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I find that it's these are going to continue to evolve, I imagine, in the climate we're in, where so many of these expectations, And if you're not having that conversation with your folks as a frontline manager or as any type of leader, God bless you, because they're gonna walk, right? They'll go other places.
Yeah, I think so. It's a practical talent retention strategy. And particularly right now, when you see all the layoffs in tech and other businesses, some people think, oh, I'm immune from top talent walking out the door, but that's not the case. I have stories and have heard of people who are top talent asking for a package because they're going to leave the company anyway. So why not leave it with a package?
Mm.
And everybody, top talent is in hot demand, whether there are
Oh,
layoffs or, talent shortages.
yeah, you ain't lying on that one. It is definitely, it's definitely a hot topic right now, and it's so true. I want to tap into one of the areas of your book here is around pipeline. It's something that we've seen a lot of sales leaders are grappling to kind of keep control of and to help their teams with, but building a great sales pipeline and being effective at that pipeline. What are some of the things that you see? How can leaders right now help their teams to start building pipeline? Maybe you can give us several thoughts and we can dive into each of them.
Yeah, I love that question. It's great. So I have an expectation of 3x pipeline coverage for my team. And when folks are struggling, we have a conversation. There's a few key questions that I ask. It's like, okay, who are you talking to in your account or set of accounts? What is your level of, senior leader relationship? And often there are gaps in senior leader decision maker relationships. So the first thing we do is we figure out, okay, how do we get to that person? Can I use my positional power as a leader to get to that person? Do we have a senior leader in our company who knows that individual? So strategizing about getting to senior leaders and using your positional power and your network to figure out how you make that connection point, because inevitably that will lead to more pipeline. That might not be short-term pipeline, though. It might be longer term, uncovering new projects and business challenges. Secondly, really, so as a leader at Microsoft, one of the expectations is that I'm providing thought leadership. So whether that's on LinkedIn, whether it is through my book, hosting customer roundtables and being able to reach people we haven't been able to reach through our normal sales channels. And those roundtables inevitably lead to pipeline growth. So I try to think about things that are more at a senior leadership level to be able to connect with leaders. And then, of course, I use Sales Navigator and I try to figure out, okay, what roles are we trying to get to? And I share the data and that information with my team because I know they're busy pounding the pavement and, so to speak, dialing. And I'm a believer that cold calls actually are effective as opposed to emails. And I know there's a culture in some companies, including Microsoft, that email outreach isn't effective. Send an invitation. I don't think that that's so. The data doesn't support it. And what I tell my team also, particularly when they're communicating within the company, email doesn't equal communication. Get on the phone. If you have a problem to solve in the company, like across teams, get on the phone. And there's folks like you had Chris Beal from Connect and Sell who, really are experts at cold calling. That's not my skill set. I'm not the expert like he is, but it gives your team the ability. I try to give my team the ability to have the contact information data so that they can do the reach out and help support them that way as well.
Oh yeah. So many things you just shared there. One, 3x in a pipeline or going 3x against what they need for their quota. Couldn't believe, that's obviously something that's critical. And I love that. finding the gaps and using your level to be able to help impact that, as far as from a leadership standpoint, getting in there. And I think that's really cool. And utilizing Sales Navigator, being like the Air Force, where you're given aerial coverage for your ground troops, so to speak. Thought that was really fascinating, helping them, because a lot of times you don't find leaders doing that. Leaders, excuse me, you find leaders will tell you just go and do, rather than go, do, and here's what you do, and here's what I'm going to do to help you in that process. And I think that's, if you did that to me, Helen, as a one of your team members, of course I'm going to do pipeline building for for the team or for the cause, because I can support a general like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, totally. And one of the things I do that my team really loves is when they're making a proposal to, a customer, first they have to get the proposal approved within Microsoft, right? And
Hmm.
so they're presenting, it's often maybe investment proposal, and they're presenting to our most senior sales executive at Microsoft, works directly for our CEO, Satya. So when that happens, I
Wow.
turn off I'm there. I turn off my camera because it's all virtual these days, and I take notes in the background so they can be present in the meeting, not having to worry about action items. They get visibility with our senior execs. So that's another way that I'm supporting their success and skill building, and it builds their network as well. And so I know, some folks listening might think, oh, you're, a senior leader at Microsoft and you're taking notes for your team. Well, it allows me to debrief, and it allows them to be more effective. So why wouldn't I do that?
Of course, everybody wins, right?
Yeah.
I love that. And I think this goes back to something you talk about in the book. The first section really is on this. Well, sorry, section two. The whole section is titled Conversations. And I think that, in many different ways, conversation or externally, but conversation with your team members. Talk to me about this, about how having, because I imagine this strategy didn't come by accident. It probably came from those conversations, those one-on-ones, those discussions. Can you talk to that for a little bit on how that
Yeah,
came
for
about?
sure. So there's 17 conversations I lay out in the book that sales managers need to manage or master with their teams, broken up into 5 different sections. So the first one's conversation of connection, building trust and a relationship with your team.
Mm.
And one of those chapters is the rhythm of a one-to-one conversation. I do 30 minutes every 2 weeks, sometimes more frequently if there's a big deal that's going down and we need to connect more frequently. But that is kind of the center point of understanding what's going on in their sales process and their, working across Microsoft, where their hiccups and blockers are. I will say, by the way, that pipeline reviews and deal reviews are a separate process. But in my one-on-one, I understand where they're challenged and where I can support them. And then, I make the offer, hey, I can help, let me see if I can help you get to this senior executive, or you're doing this deal review to our executives. Would you like my help, taking notes in the background, reviewing their presentation before they present it, role playing, stuff like that, because I want them to shine so that we can progress our deal and get it done with the customer.
Oh, so darn true on that. Absolutely love it. It's great. So getting more of those conversations. What else could I do as a leader to help my team build pipeline?
Yeah, well, sometimes it might be hosting blitz days. Now, I have mixed feelings about blitz days. I guess it's how they're implemented, but rallying around a particular solution area or set of customers and all working together, usually, again, it's virtual now, have been effective and have been a way to get more conversations, to connect with customers, find out what is needed, and then build pipeline. So that's been an effective pipeline builder. The other thing is just putting attention on it. As a leader, putting attention on it. And there's so many things a seller could be working on. And they may think, hey, I'm good. I have enough in the pipeline this quarter. Well, what are you doing for next quarter? What are you doing for the quarter after? In B2B enterprise sales, sometimes the deals take longer time frame. The other thing is we have a very robust partner channel. So are we connecting with the partners that are working in our accounts? And are we collaborating and trying to understand, where we can be stronger together? So there's a lot of different angles that the seller can take, and they may not have thought about them. So as a leader, I think it's super important to be able to ask those questions and help brainstorm on what might be effective for them.
Yeah. And I think that I like that part too, because it's not, you said this a little bit early on where you have some of your sellers who want to get into frontline management. So you're
Right.
thinking a long game here with them, but giving them the ability or helping them to become critical thinkers, like to figure out where they need help with, what are some of the challenges they have, rather again from the top down, but being there with them. I like that strategy. And go back to what you said about the hosting of the blitz. I see where you're coming from with that, where sometimes if it's just like a flash in a pan, then that's not going to be great. But if it's like something, like you said, constructed and done properly, to help motivate or inspire, but to keep the team going and help them to boost morale, I can see how that can work effectively. We've done some of that before, and I agree with you there.
Yeah, you can gamify it, have a little contest going, a lot of things that makes it sort of more fun and collaborative as a team. At Microsoft, a lot of selling is done internally. And so there's a lot of opportunity to reduce sales friction, which ultimately leads to deals, pipeline, revenue. But it's B2B selling can be complex, particularly with large enterprise sales. And I have like big, huge customers, like think of Boeing, Honeywell. So it's no small thing to get all of the decision makers on the buyer side lined up. And, it takes a village sometimes. So the pipeline is just a early representation of a deal. And we have a sales team, and what are the other sellers doing in addition to my sellers, like the product sellers? So making sure that you're coordinated, there's a lot a leader can do in that environment.
I like that. I also want to go back to another piece of what you mentioned in your book here, is one of the other conversation, the alignment conversations. Do you mind talking to that a little bit? Specifically securing resource and investment, because I think that comes down to a lot for salespeople.
Yeah. So, inevitably, particularly with large enterprise customers, they're looking for help implementing the solution. Let's say they're doing a big, SAP implementation in the cloud on Microsoft Azure. Well, they're inevitably looking at some help and investment of resources to help them be successful. And so that is a investment that we need to get approval for, and that we need to, put as part of the deal. They might be looking for special pricing terms or things like that as well. Again, securing that. So we have a whole structured process to look, and we have in finances looking at the deal particulars. But at the end of the day, our senior executive, our senior sales leader, worldwide sales leader, has a deal forum where he hears and listens to deals, but also helps them block deals. So it's not just a yay or nay looking at the financials. It's like, well, what's the customer doing, and how can we really help them be successful? And he digs into it to really try to help the sales team think about things they might not have helped. But before you get that they may not have thought about, but before you get to that point, you've got to get all the different product sellers on the team and their leadership aligned on the deal construct and the investment construct. And so that, for these large accounts, that could be 50 people. They don't all have a say-so, but their managers need to be aware and in agreement. And that's part of what I mean about internal alignment within the company. And about 50% of a seller's time, typically, sadly, is focused internal selling and alignment, not in front of the customer. We try to streamline where we can, but it's no small thing. So that's what I talk about in that part of the book about internal alignment. And that's really where a manager and a leader can help reduce friction and get things moving.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes as sales reps, like we, going down into the weeds, like, well, let's back up. We don't know what we don't know. And then when we are going through a deal, say it's a large enterprise deal, like it's a situation like that, like you're explaining, and what the client may be looking for, it's not like the stuff that's easily right there on the surface, like they want to get a quote or they need to get a proposal, but it just some of these little nuances that maybe a junior seller or even sometimes experienced seller may overlook, but being there to be able to have those conversations with the team and be able to help them, it can guide the path. I can tell you, one of the organizations I work for, we had a leader that took part in the sales process with me, and it was a larger deal, so I needed help to pull this one in. But it came into the process and it helped. And there are some things that I didn't know that they were able to point out, but that was able to put me on a trajectory so I can go for larger opportunities. And that coaching and that mentoring was very useful and helpful. But again, as a leader, if you're not doing this, if you're not having these conversations, then it sucks. People are going to leave. Pipeline are going to decrease. You're going to get upset at them, and they're going to lose deflated.
Yeah, for sure. So I talked about building trust and relationship with sellers and understanding what matters to them. That's exactly the skills I expect the sellers to have with customers.
Mm-hmm.
What's not so important at the beginning is the product, like which product is part of the solution. What matters is what's the customer trying to accomplish, and what does success look like for them? And can we help them accomplish that with some mix of technology, and maybe it's implementation services, maybe it's partner services. So starting down just with what do we get out of this, or what product can we sell, is backwards. You've got to really understand what customer challenge you're trying to solve first.
I love it. Love this. Helen, we can go on this for a couple of days, but I know, unfortunately, we can't have all of these conversations. But if somebody want to have these conversations, they can hear them all here. Check out all the conversations.
Yes.
Tons of amazing conversations here. Love your team, a survival guide here for leaders, and I want you all to check it out. Helen breaks all of these things down, and I'm grateful to have you on the show here. I'm grateful for some of these things here you shared, which I feel that not only my team could benefit from, but if I know for our listeners can definitely take advantage of. If there's one major takeaway you want as a leader listening to this episode, trying to figure out how to help her team, and to help them to build effective pipeline, if there's one major thing you think they should leave with, what's that major piece of advice?
Reduce sales friction. Support your team's success by using your positional power, your network to reduce sales friction for your sellers.
Helen, thank you. If folks want to get in touch with you or to check out the book, where should they go to find it?
The book is on Amazon, and I'm on LinkedIn.
Well, we're going to put all those in our show notes. Congratulations. Love what you all are doing. I love the philosophy over there at Microsoft about the leaders being thought leaders and, having those expectation to share content and to write content. So thank you. Thank you for helping making this community a better place. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Again, if you haven't checked out and connected with Helen, please go ahead and do so. Tell her that you heard her here on the Sales Evangelist Podcast. You can find all the details and information about what Helen taught about in her book, and you can find that information in the show notes. Again, I'm a fan of Helen, fan of what she is doing, fan of the conversations that she's having with her team and helping individuals like you and I have. And if you're a sales leader, highly recommend this book. If you're an individual contributor, check this book out as well, because it's going to help you to not only have better conversation with your leaders, but when you get into the leadership role, know how to help them. Now, speaking about help, our sponsors are offering you amazing offers, and I want you to take advantage of them so you can best benefit and to help your team. It's just Plain and simple math. Like, we connect with them, we get free stuff for you, get opportunities, and we need you to take advantage of them so you can find the best benefit from it. If this is your first time listening to our podcast, I hope that you found so much value that you subscribe. And also, if you loved it so much, please take this link for this episode and share it with one other person, maybe a team member, put it in your Slack channel or whatnot, but get other people to listen to it as well so they can find best benefit from it. I can't wait to connect with you on LinkedIn and to have you join our next program, as well as to hear about your amazing success building pipeline and converting more of that pipe. As always, we want you to go out, raise your level of thinking, and do big things. Thanks so much for watching.